but there's no footy, so it's just two old blokes having a drink on a Tuesday night, having a bit of a chat with as many people that want to join us. And speaking of people who are joining us, my good friend Ferrell Biggie. Good evening, Ferrell.
Yeah, some of your finest work. For those who didn't see what that's all about, earlier in the day I posted a photo from Dan Murphy's about a new beer that's called JR, and instead of pointing it out, I said, it's good to see a beer named after me. Right down below on the bottom right was Ferrell Biggie, the beer. So Trev pointed that out. That was my name.
I try my best. You're joining us from your backyard, and for people who might not be able to see where I'm joining you from, I'm from up in the space station, so that's, I'm thinking, the most safest place, well, not on Earth, but safest place to be at the moment. So I've just joined my friends up here, the Ruskies. So good night from the International Space Station.
Yeah, they serve Guinness up there. Yeah, good on. It's the Irish Space Station.
They serve Guinness anywhere.
Yeah, true, but not the real stuff. You got to go there.
Not the real stuff. Good evening to everyone who's just joining us. Anthony Papa, g'day Anthony. Thank you for joining us. Cute little profile pic there. Thank you for tuning in. Greg is joining us in from his Carlton Live account. Still needs to get his head around working out how he can just come in from his own account. Technology's not.
Sorry, Greg. I meant to fix that during the week. I forgot, mate. Sorry.
Technologies are not just catching up to the people over in Kalgoorlie, so you'll have to sort him out there. Greg Sandow, g'day Greg, thank you for joining us. We love having you with us. Brennan Whitford, g'day mate, thank you also for joining us. Really appreciate that. Harley Ash is joining us. Yes, that's true. It is Ferrell Biggie if you're just joining in. Good observation. So say good day to everyone for us, Ferrell.
Yeah, nah, I'm not going there. There's too many lines.
As I said, I'm joining you from the space station, and you're talking to John and Trevor at Carlton Live. No footy to talk, so we're just going to sit around and talk as much crap as we can muster up for an hour.
An hour?
Here we go. We've also got a special guest ready to join us a bit later. In fact, in a few minutes, I can just see him now in our ready room, and it's fantastic to have him join us tonight. Nic Wishart from the Cheer Squad. Really looking forward to having a chat to him and learning about where he's come from as a Carlton supporter, as well as a bit of an insight into the Carlton Cheer Squad and what they do and what they're up to right now in the absence of no footy. Brandon Whitford says JR looks like he's hiding something with them sunnies on. How busy now, Johnny?
It's just the Blues Brothers sunnies, It's going for a little bit of effect.
Fair enough, mate. It's 7 o'clock at night. It's a bit dark out there, so that's okay.
No, I did have a couple of beers with my lovely bride a bit earlier on, so yeah, a couple into the pack.
You're getting to know your wife like I am mine in this period of isolation?
Well, it's really, for me, it's just it's bare bum play on because I just work from home anyway.
Okay.
So she's working from home, so it's all good.
Fair enough.
It's got to be on the serious side. It's going to test a lot of relationships, isn't it?
There's either probably going to be a baby boom and a divorce boom in about 9 months' time.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Honey, I was talking to my mum about the same thing earlier on today. Yeah, it's going to be, polar opposites, isn't it?
I think so. And you've dragged the baby blue out for tonight's broadcast. That's got another appearance.
Yes, it was. Sorry, I forget who said it before, but they asked if anyone had one, and yeah, I thought I'd put it up again. Time to go again.
I think you had a fair chance of getting an offer for that too. Would you part with it for some cash?
It's going nowhere. It's going nowhere.
It's probably worth about $30, so you probably won't need to hold on to it. All righty. So who else have we got
my shout out tonight before we go on to the Wattle Glen Fire Brigade. They did some awesome work. Well, they always do awesome work, but especially earlier on in the year. Big shout out to the Wattle Glen Fire Brigade.
Very good stuff. Thank you very much. Are they sponsoring us tonight?
No. Before I went to Yarrawonga as a kid, I grew up in Wattle Glen, and one of my mates' dads, he was there for about 203 years. So yeah, got the stubby holder because of him, and yeah, just big shout out to them.
Very good. We've got Adrian Hines. Good evening, Adrian. Looking forward to hearing from Nic. Everyone's wanting to hear from Nic. I don't know what the go is. He sounds like a bit of a popular guy. Who else have we got? Nathan Kalezi. G'day, Nate. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you. Love to hear from you. Greg Sandow smashed the Hawks by 67 points on the PS4 last night. That'll be good.
Greg, have you got the new game?
It doesn't come out yet, I think. Maybe he has got an early version.
Yeah, they've released it early. I'm not sure if it was quite yet, but be interesting to know.
I thought you'd be the one on top of that, mate, getting the early access to the new game.
No, not this one. But yeah, I saw the news. I just didn't read it fully.
Okay. Very good. All right. So, the sounds of it from everyone that's typing in, this guest will be very, very popular. So I'm very pleased to have him on the show. Like I said, I'll bring him into the stream now, all things willing and all technology willing. And as a matter of fact,
there he is.
Speak of the devil, Wishart, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Really appreciate it. A little bit stressed there for a second. You weren't showing up in our feed, but all
tech difficulties. We get there.
Where are you? You're joining us from the lounge room?
No, I'm in my new home office, which is a spare bedroom at my sister-in-law's house. So I'm surrounded by boxes and stuff because my partner and I are in the process of moving into a new house. But because of the current climate, things are slowing down a bit with that. But yeah, I'm surrounded by boxes and stuff. But we've got a desk. And we've got maybe it moves that side. Maybe there's Carlton memorabilia behind me. I was trying to set it up as like props in the background, but not to be.
Fair enough.
It's got to be a lot better than a fence behind me.
As soon as we mentioned you on the show, mate, we just started getting inundated with people wanting to be a part of it. So is this popularity? Is this you're aware of how popular you are?
It's more. Look, does pay friends mean much to you? No. Look, I can see the comments in the corner there, and that's very appreciated. Sometimes, look, I put myself out there as a public face and stuff, and I know that I'm a big personality, and big personalities tend to attract a lot of fanfare, but also a lot of criticism. But all the fanfare is very much appreciated. All the baggers out there.
I've seen a couple.
Yeah, it's also, I think everyone just wants to hear, from the cheer squad and what this means. I know I do. I'm actually riveted. I can't wait to hear you speak about what this actually means for such a core group. You start with a cheer squad, and everything just comes out from there in terms of support. So it's just amazing. I want to get your thoughts on that. I want to see what people are doing, hear what people are doing. A question that I'll have for you later is about how that the core are dealing with Northern Blues situation.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy time, isn't it? In terms of how
it's terrible.
Yeah, in terms of how are we coping and how are we going about things and what are we doing? It's hard. I think my partner and I have already watched at least 7 or 8 different classic games of Carlton's just to try and get some footy fix. Losing the footy is a big thing. During a time like this, which is a high-stress environment for so many people, for a lot of people, the footy is their only outlet in their day-to-day life, and having something to look forward to on the weekend is, their escapism from the harsh realities of the world. Well, at the moment, we haven't got that. We haven't got concerts. We haven't got, whatever your hobbies are. So it's a bit harder to get through without it at the moment, yeah.
The harsh reality is there's no AFL, and that's it's a double hit, really.
And I don't think it's kind of dawned on me, at least, that just the magnitude of it all. The AFL has stopped, and all local leagues. You can't go and watch your local team in the amateurs or whatever that is either. It's the scale of it is quite massive, and I don't think we've got quite grasped the repercussions that it'll have, not only on our footy club. You mentioned Northern Blues as well, but in terms of financial hit, I think we're only scraping the surface of what that'll look like for our club and the league as a whole as well.
Yeah, look, I agree so much, and I grew up. After I lived in Wattle Glen, shout out again, Wattle Glen Fire Brigade. I moved to Yarrawonga, and you get the news there before the news, the local news, and always on a Saturday is local footy results. And there are places that you never heard of that have a footy team, like Waiai, for example. And all these places are just going to absolutely struggle, not only in a football sense, but in a town sense. Out before, it's what they look forward to on a Saturday. Given that I said it last week, I feel so much for Gippsland. They've just been absolutely decimated.
Absolutely.
And football was, and tourism was the one thing to come back to, and on both of them.
And you mentioned those country leagues, and if you're in a remote community, within Victoria, but all of Australia, for a lot of players and the volunteers and staff, for a lot of young men and women involved in a sporting group, that's their accountability and that's their place of belonging. And, for some people, that's what keeps them on the straight and narrow, is having the accountability of a team environment around them.
America Football Club.
Those communities, it can have a massive flow-on effect with, the value of sport. Tomorrow starts April, and we should be hearing ads and seeing ads and stuff all over social media and TV about the Premier's Active April. Well, it's going to look very different this year.
Yeah,
mate. We got you on the show. There's a few rough heads in the cheer squad, and so we went through and looked at the list of the roughest heads to get on. So
you're scraping the barrel with me then.
Really appreciate that. Was your line, not mine. I reckon all the cheer squad are a very attractive group. Maybe if you can give us a bit of an insight into your history of Carlton. How did you manage to beat Carlton? I hope you've always been Carlton. Just maybe
always
go back a few years.
Yeah, so my Carlton story goes back to when I was born. My dad's Carlton fan. His dad and my uncle on that side were Carlton fans. On my mother's side, her father is a mad Carlton fan. He used to run for the Carlton Harriers in Carlton. He was a sprinter. But the connection's always been there. That kind of really took off from an early age, as early as I can remember. I was about 4 or 5. That would have been 92, so it would have been about 4. And my cousin married David Kernahan. So by family, there was a link there as well. And I was page boy at their wedding. And here I was, a 4-year-old. There's photos of me still handing a crown lager to Stephen Kernahan and meeting Justin Madden and Brett Ratton. And it was like a kid in the candy store. It was every young boy's and girl's dream hanging out with Stephen Kernahan and Craig Bradley and these sort of names. So I was really spoilt as a kid. My cousin would take me and I'd sit at Princess Park up in the Heatley stand with the players' wives, and whoever was playing in the reserves or, the rookies. I remember Scott Camporelli one day, who was just signed as a rookie, got asked to take me down to the rooms and meet all the players and get all the autographs and all that sort of stuff. So, and I just fell in love instantly. I mean, how could you not, especially with that era and those sort of players? My dad would also come to the footy with me every week. When the last game at Princess Park happened and we lost to Melbourne that day, my dad, his heart was broken and he still struggles to come to the footy. All these years later, it's 15 years on now.
Wow.
So he comes from that vintage in that, that he's a boomer and they're kind of, footy's not what I grew up watching and it's all kicking sideways and backwards. And to a certain extent, he has a point. But so when my dad stopped going and I was about 18 or so by this stage, I had no one to go with. So I kind of sought adoption, if you will. So I joined the cheer squad and it turns out that there's a whole bunch of nomads similar to me who just wanted someone to hang out with and go to the footy with. And one by one, we formed this massive family. And from an age of about 18 or 19, I've been travelling interstate with a core group of the cheer squad guys like Jovan and Liam and Risto and a few others. We've been travelling interstate together for over a decade, and those bonds and those friendships you get are amazing. My partner and I, we met through the cheer squad. It's just a great family environment, really. It's a lot of people go to church because that's where their place of belonging. We mentioned local footy clubs or netball clubs or whatever you're involved with. These are places where people go to find a sense of belonging. For me, I find a lot of my identity and stuff in going to the footy and hanging out in that community and seeing all those faces that you see every week. For me, I'm Carlton absolute nuffy. I was that kid who would always be writing down the stats, and I'd get a notepad out and I'd start drawing up, my best 22, and I'd put all their stats in the corner and make up pretend games and then go out in the backyard and recreate it, kicking the footy to myself with commentary. I did that until I was about, I shouldn't say this, I was about 13 by the time I grew out of that.
I still do it.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, if there's a balloon or a footy around, I'll sell some candy and do an Eddie Betts or something like that. But
yeah, that's it. When it was too wet, it was the balloon inside.
Yeah.
Mate, it sounds like you were certainly born and destined to be part of the club and part of the cheer squad.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic, and I bet you've got some fantastic stories to tell. We probably wouldn't get through them all tonight if you were to tell a few of them. We'll hopefully get a couple or two later on during the night. Did you ever have a kick yourself?
Yeah, I played myself. So junior footy, my first ever game, I was playing for the Frankston Rovers. I played fullback on a guy playing for Mount Eliza called Nathan Jones, who went on to captain Melbourne. He's played a few games. You might have heard of him. And at under 11s, no, this wasn't under 11s, under 10s. Under 10s, we already knew who he was. He was a triathlete, and on the Mornington Peninsula, he was a local legend at 10 years old. Wow. I played school footy alongside Nathan then, alongside guys like Johnny McCarthy, who played for Collingwood and Port Adelaide.
Yes, I remember him.
We had a lot of AFL players come from our school.
Very unfulfilled talent, that one.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So I played, rubbed shoulders with some very good players when I was younger. And up until about age 15 or 16, I could run rings around a lot of them. I was taller than everyone else. I developed early. I was 6'2", age 14. And I was still quite fit at that age. But by the time everyone hit 16 and they discovered what a gym was, I wasn't playing against boys. I was playing against men all of a sudden, and I just got it beaten up every week. So 1 year in the amateurs, I played under 19s for Peninsula Royal Boys, and that was enough for me. At that moment, I realised I was better to analyse the game than it was to play it for me. Now I'm in a spot in life where I'm in my 30s now, and I'd love nothing more than to have a run around again. But I've kind of got to wait. I've got to wait for the Super League, or the over 35s might be my gun, because I think running around with a few blokes overweight's more my scene at the moment. Than I'm very unfit nowadays.
No, that's fantastic stuff. And so, how long have you been with the Cheer Squad?
So 2007 would have been my first year in the Cheer Squad.
Well, been a fair bit of ups and downs then. Well,
plenty.
Maybe downs.
A lot of downs, but you know what? Look, plenty of ups. As I said before, the community that the Cheer Squad brings, and in more recent years, thanks to social media and that sort of thing, you get to know the wider Carlton community and stuff like that. They kind of put a bit of a silver lining on all the crap times. You're able to come out and say, well, if we're traveling interstate and you have a tough loss, the experiences and that camaraderie of meeting interstate members and that sort of stuff can really, bring some positivity in those dark years, which thankfully we're starting to see the end of. Touch wood.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's every time you go interstate, win, loss, draw.
Yep.
See those supporters who only see 1, 2 games, and they put on the best dudes.
Oh, have either of you guys ever been to one of the events or one of the games down in Tassie?
No,
I've been to the game.
So the group down in Tassie, we talk about only getting one game a year. Their first game, pretty much to my knowledge, in 10, 15 years was about 2015 or 16 or so. And then we had 1 or 2 a year for a couple of years. And you just saw this passion that was bottled up because they weren't able to get to games, these guys. And we were going to functions, selling out the Cascade Brewery, and getting 300 people at these events. And a brewery ran out of grog. That's how big these pre-game functions were. And some of the greatest times. And those guys and we're serious, the Cascade Brewery ran out of beer. We tear it up on the interstates. We're a lot more behaved now, but
rubbish.
Well, by standards.
It's one big Contiki tour every time you go interstate.
Do you know what it is now? So for so long, I mentioned, how I travel with the same sort of crew, since I was about 18 or so. And when we first went, it was kind of still up to the Cheer Squad to organise a lot of the interstate groups. They may not have had, supporter groups established and systems in place to organise events and all that sort of stuff. But now we're in a spot where we've got the WA Blues, the Perth crew over there have got several hundred paid members of their own, let alone of the footy club. And they turn up to watch games themselves. The Queensland group put on the most incredible functions you'll ever see.
They do.
Really, really great group. But they're really organised. So it's at the spot now where, if needed be, the Cheer Squad, we're responsible for bringing ourselves. We take the banner up interstate wherever we're going. And that's about it sometimes now. We have the freedom, thanks to the organisations interstate, that we can kind of just turn up, and others with that passion wanting to go and hold up the banner, and they know what they're doing now. So I am able to relax when interstate is. But back 10 years ago, we were almost working because we had to do it all ourselves. Yeah.
If you're just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, we're very pleased to have Nic Wishart from the Carlton Cheer Squad with us tonight, and he's been very generous with his time to share his story with us, starting from being born a Blue right through to him being part of the Cheer Squad for 17 odd years now, by the sounds of it. Mate, and just also out there to the audience, if you've got any questions of Nic, please feel free to type them in. We'll try and get him to cover those things. If you've got any stories to tell about Nic,
keep it PG, everyone.
please feel free to share those with us too. We won't shy away from those, mate. It's obviously a fair bit of a time commitment to be part of the cheer squad and probably
okay.
financially. What can you sort of give us an insight into a typical week of a cheer squad member?
Yeah. So the core group that do, like a lot of things, the core group of few do much, and a great many do little. But
Like
the core,
really, me and John.
yep. we
Do everything.
The core group who are kind of, we have a cheer squad committee. So they're people who have expressed an interest to actually, get involved. How can I help? So the same crew of, let's say, 25 to 40 people are the ones that we can rely on to attend banner nights multiple times per year. But of that group, there's about 15 or so of us, maybe 20 of us, that every single week on a Wednesday night will turn up to banner night. Banner night nowadays is out in the western suburbs near Caroline Springs in Hillside. We go to a primary school out there. Banner night usually starts at about 7 p.m. and by about 9, if we're turning up and actually getting stuff done and we're not procrastinating too much, we're done by about 9, maybe 9:30. So that takes about 15 or 20 of us a couple of hours to complete a banner each week. There's also a lot of logistics that go into there's certain people in charge of on game day. We have people that are in charge of logistics of the bay operations, so liaising with security and making sure that if there is any riffraff that it gets sorted out, and MCG security aren't patrolling the bays looking for people to kick out. It happens. It's funny how it always happens at the MCG, not at Marvel Stadium, but that's another story. We've got weekly raffles we hold. So that's the cheer squad. We are our own entity, and we do self-fund ourselves. So the way that we pay for our materials and source things for the banners, the floggers, the flags and stuff that you do see, that comes self-funded. So that's why you'll see a lot of the times in the cheer squad social medias or whatever, or on game days, if you're walking past, you'll see us selling raffle tickets and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's a whole group effort. A handful of us might be in charge of doing things on social media, so that's one of the things that I do. Whereas other people,
very well, I might say.
Oh, thank you. Well, each channel is very different and very unique from the next. So those of us who follow the Cheer Squad on Twitter will know that it's a very different tone that you'll see on Facebook. Facebook's a lot happier and more inclusive, but Twitter's just an excuse to bag Essendon because it's an echo chamber, and I love it there. But yeah, look, there's actually a lot of work that goes into a week of a Cheer Squad member. On game day, you'll see the people out there. We have to do, for OHS reasons, we have to give like safety speeches and stuff, because that big cloth banner you see, it weighs a couple of 100 kilos. Mm-hmm. And if it's wet, it's cloth. It's crazy. And if there's wind, it's quite a dangerous thing to hold up a banner. It might look quite easy and a bit of fun, but there was one AFLW game, the last one we got to play, St Kilda, I think it was, the respects round. I nearly got airborne holding up one of the ropes. It's a big deal, yeah. But we, in the midst of all of the work that has to go in, you're doing it for the Carlton Football Club, so it's not work. It's you volunteer your time because of the passion for the club, and the people around you make it so much easier because you're doing it in community.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can understand. Yeah, doing that for the love of it.
Couple of questions.
And, it's wonderful to do it with the people around you. Like Mark McKenzie and Andrew Lake. Trevor's just a package type of thing, but
Mate, a couple of questions have come in from the audience. A couple of people have asked this question, and one of those fantastic banners spring to mind, which I'll bring up shortly. We need to get behind who was responsible for that. But who comes up with the poem or the writing of the banner?
So as much as I wish I could say that it was me and or us, final tick of approval about what goes on the banner is a club decision. Cheer Squad's throughout the whole AFL do things differently club by club. Back in the day, we used to have a lot more autonomy about what was written on the banner. For obvious reasons, back in the day, some very inappropriate things have been put on banners, and Carlton's, not alone in that. But yeah, so for PR reasons, the club have to, and very much legal reasons, the club have to they have tried to be a bit sneaky. I think, what's the fella's name from the Bulldogs? Danny McGinlay. When he started getting in vogue with the witty banners, I think it became an idea that a handful of people asked the marketing team and, give us a funny, witty slogan. And a few of them were pretty cringe because they were almost manufacturing banter rather than actually just, having a bit of passion behind it. But yeah, now I believe that a lot of the writing comes from, I won't name the staff member, but there's a staff member who I know of who's written some doozies in the last couple of years. Yeah, so I wish it was us, but we don't have much say in it. I'm sorry.
The Dom Sheed reference was
classic.
Was a
yeah. So that sort of stuff, that's fantastic. But I think we made one or two comments about Ferris Bueller's Day Off and hovercrafts and this, yeah. Anyway, the less cringe, the better.
Correct. So, financial aspect of it, are you guys? You do your own fundraising, but do you all guys contribute to your trips away? No. So everyone who does travel interstate, we fund ourselves. That's a good idea. We should try and see if the Cheer Squad funds can pay for us. No, we wouldn't do that. No, we pay for ourselves. So I don't know about my finances last year, and that was a bit less. But 2018. I would have spent, and my partner basically the same because we travel all, together between club functions and like the B&F night and all that sort of stuff, merchandise, flights, accommodation, membership, all that sort of stuff. We roughly estimated in 2018, it was about $15,000 on the Carlton Football Club in 2018 for 2 wins. And I was sure to get drunk at best and fairest and mouth off to a certain player that we spent $7,500 per win on them. So that's the level of commitment that we got. But I think you'll judge someone's passions in life and what's important to them by their bank account. If you see, if someone spends a lot of money on concerts, then you know that music's something for them. If you spend a lot of money on clothes and fashion, that's important to them. Well, for me, it's footy. And it's a way to travel Australia. We get to see Perth and Brisbane and Adelaide and, all these places that, if not for the footy, you might not be able to get to see, yeah.
That's got to change. That's got to be marketing budget. Seriously, because if there's no cheer squad, there's no marketing in any particular territory. That's got to change.
Well, the club do come to the table somewhat. So since they've had the partnership with Virgin, the sponsorship with Virgin Airlines, they have basically put in like a price match guarantee for flights interstate and stuff like that for us, for the Cheer Squad members. And there is provisions for people to do that. But some of the time it actually just turns out cheaper for us to do it ourselves.
Skyscanner.
They also have things like I think it's not only for Cheer Squad members. I believe, don't hold me to it, but I believe it's for all members that if you're travelling interstate multiple times, for the third interstate game and onwards, your ticket to the game is free. So little things like that, that's a way to save some coin. They're token gestures, but they do mean something if you get to travel to every game. You'd much rather that the free ticket gets to Adelaide Oval rather than Gold Coast, because the ticket to Metricon is about $15, $20 for an interstate member, whereas Adelaide Oval will charge all interstate fans $60 a ticket to get in. It's price gouging. It's terrible.
And you're right up the top too.
Well, no, we sit in front of the hill where the scoreboard end at Adelaide Oval.
The average punter, you go right up the top.
Yep.
Top three rows.
Yep. So, and shout out to anyone who does want to travel interstate when the footy does come back. Book your tickets through the Cheer Squad, because that's how you get to sit on level 1. And God knows, certain games you do need strength in numbers. Adelaide Oval is an example. Port Adelaide fans year on year will not only hurl abuse, but hurl projectiles at interstate fans. It still goes on.
Yeah, well, they've yet to reach a collective of, what we would call a respectable intelligence level.
Certain fan bases,
kids are educated.
Certain fan bases are actually really cool. We went last year interstate, and the game where Mark Murphy kicked the winner against Fremantle, basically on the siren. It was party time after that win. All day it was party time, but after that goal, we were so up and about. When we were downstairs packing up our banner and stuff after the game and putting it all away, we ran into the Fremantle Cheer Squad doing the same for their crew. And I was deliberately quiet, not wanting to, be too over the top in front of these guys, because, they've just had a tough loss. And they went out of their way to come up and congratulate us and say, Carlton have had some tough times, stick with them, all that sort of jazz. But also,
right,
they're really appreciative of seeing people travelling interstate to see their team. So, yeah, shout out to the Freo Cheer Squad. They're really cool. But
look, I've got to say I've been to quite a number of games at what was Footy Park with the Blade crew, and I've had nothing but great experiences there. And this is, goes back to when we were up and about. And they were just a great banter. Won a couple of times, they won a couple of times, but it was always great banter. So shout out to the Port Adelaide fans out there if you're watching, which would be none of you, but it hasn't been all bad experiences over there. We had wonderful times at Footy Park.
The last game at Footy Park was my best experience there.
Hey, that if you remember the last game of the season, quite a few years ago, where we had to win it,
2013.
Yeah, I was up at my mum's place, and things were very, very ordinary. I had to go up personally, and I was listening to radio, which was going in and out at the time, and I was like speaker right up to here, hearing little bits and pieces through the crackle, and then fourth quarter just dropped out.
Oh, no.
So I'm waiting on my mate to actually text me what's going on.
I could, if you were to put that game on tomorrow or tonight and mute the audio, I reckon I could do the commentary on that game word for word. I've watched it that many times. And when I think it was Matthew Broadbent was the one that hit the post for them with about 12, 15 seconds to go. As the ball left his boot live at the ground, I've still never heard a bigger roar in my life. I thought we were done. The second the ball hit the boot, I thought, we're cooked here. It was even louder than when Judd kicked the goal in the elimination final, all of that. It was just scary. Amazing game. And we talk about Kentucky tours interstate. That one was an absolute Kentucky tour. It was huge.
You've obviously been there right at the coalface for a few games, and that was one of my questions. And maybe that one will get a mention. But maybe your top 3 games you've been a part of.
Ooh, yeah, that'll probably get up there. That and the following week versus Richmond in the elimination final. You got to mention them.
Yeah.
Going.
That was one of my best games too, because
forever, Nick Dygan is just my hero in life as a result of that game.
Yeah, I can't believe he again Malthouse hero fuckwit. But anyway,
good turn.
I've mentioned this on the show before, but that was one of my favourite days at the football, because it's one of those days like with the Port Adelaide fans that I was talking about. It was just great banter. We were sitting amongst a whole heap of Richmond supporters and just had great banter all day. But funny stuff, nothing derogatory.
Yeah.
There was this wonderful, because at the time we were both teams struggling. So there was just this wonderful, I know what you're on about, know what we're on about type of thing. And they were mouthing off. They were 4 goals, 5 goals up type of stuff. But good stuff. They're mouthing off like they should be. Yep. You know, they're really getting passionate about it. And I've never seen a bunch of people shut up so quickly. But they walked past us at the end of the game, shook our hands and said, yeah, you guys deserve it.
And at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer of everything, well, for the most part, everything is fair game during the game, but you keep it within the boundaries. But surely at the end of the game, you can walk past someone and go, you won or we won, bad luck, you know. It's got to be. If what's going on to the world now has got to teach us anything, that you got to keep your humanity about you, surely. Like,
yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing about our sport is we don't take it outside. Like the absolute minority.
Yeah, I agree.
And get stupid about it, but I think we all are well versed enough in the sport that we get absolutely passionate about it. We don't get stupid about it. And then we shake hands after it. So, yeah, you're the better team, or we were the better team, and be pretty good about it.
Yeah. I just noticed Jimmy Raptor's comment about Simo's 250th. That's got to get a mention as well. So that was also Michael Jamison's 150th game. Played Port Adelaide at Marvel, or Etihad back then. We were about
whatever it was.
The insert name here, stadium. We were about 3 goals down with less than 10 minutes to go, and of all players, it was Liam Sumner got a tackle, holding the ball, kicked the goal to get us back in it, and we just had a bit of belief. From memory, I think that Mark Murphy went down early, and maybe Casbolt. There was another tall. Casbolt or Cruiser kicked the winner, so it wouldn't have been him. But that might have been Levi. Went down early. So we're playing with 2 on the bench, and apparently at half-time or three-quarter time, Brendan Bolton said to the crew, well, you've got no Murphy. To the midfielders, you know, it was Gibbs, Simpson, Cripps, that sort of crew, Doherty. You guys are going to have to run yourselves into the ground because you've got no Mark Murphy. Well, I vividly remember after the game, whoever the boundary rider was interviewing Bryce Gibbs, and he starts spewing up in the middle of the ground because he really did push himself that hard. And the tears in the change rooms that night. So we packed up our banner. One of the beautiful things about being in the cheer squad is that we do get quite privileged access to a few things, like the opportunity to get into the change rooms and stuff from time to time. But that night was something I'll never forget. I remember Brendan Bolton saying the phrase, you guys played like Simo for Simo. And it stuck with me because it showed what he means to the playing group and our club. But there were tears, and Michael Jamison's, you know, I played both in the ruck and fullback as a kid. So I've always loved fullbacks. Jamo and Sam Rowe and those sort of guys. Now Wiedering's one of my favourites. But Jamo's 150th, and it turned into his last game. And he was kind of telling everyone in the rooms that he was done. It was just an incredible game. But if we're mentioning favourite games, I want to mention one more, and that was the first game ever of AFLW. I've got my AFLW hoodie on.
Yes.
I'm a devotee. I love this. I love it. Obsessed. But that night at Princess Park, there was however many people, 25,000, whatever it was, a lockout.
Yep.
And I fell more in love with my club that night than I ever have before it. It was the most incredible night of footy. I've been to the MCG and seen Liverpool in front of 96,000 people singing You'll Never Walk Alone. And I've been to the Olympics. I've travelled, you know, been to grand finals, AFL and A-League grand finals and everything. That was one of the most incredible nights of sport I've ever been a part of. That.
It was, absolutely. Yeah, both Carlton and Collingwood supporters were completely in awe of what happened.
Our inaugural captain was Lauren Arnell, and we're raising the banner, and I'll never forget her leading the team out for the first time. And God is my witness, everyone that walked past, it wasn't, you know, she stopped and allowed everyone to walk past her. And it wasn't like a little bum tap or a pat in the back. she was whacking these girls, and it was like a bolt of lightning was going through them. And every time she whacked one of them, they'd kind of get upright, and they just had this look in their eyes as they ran through the banner. And the second they were running through it, I said, "Oh yeah, we're on here." Like, we had it in the bag from that moment. They looked intense, and I was in tears holding the banner. It was amazing.
Really devastating. They didn't get to compete in the final. But, John and I spoke about it last week. John had a rant in particular that done something to delay it and just bring them back rather than just pull the pin completely. But you'll get a certain level of agreement with us about AFLW. We love it, and it's got a big future as well.
Absolutely.
Mate, do you get much?
I'm loving the current social climate with giving Karen Harrington a lot more credit than she deserves. A lot more credit than she has been given. Because she deserves so much. And she's been really, 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 flying under the radar.
Oh, yeah.
This week there's a lot of praise for it,
Yeah.
and there should be a lot of praise for it. Did that completely wrong at the start. I'm sorry. Karen Harrington is an absolute superstar.
Absolutely.
And finally recognition. She's just an amazing, amazing footballer.
Yeah. So many people. If it was the men's comp, you'd be comparing her, even though she plays down in defence. She reminds me of someone like a Pendlebury in that whole thing of never looks rushed. For a defender in the AFLW, they're really the ones under the most pressure.
You meant to say Sam Walsh then, right?
Sure. No, well, that's him too. God.
You get the rules right of this show. We're exclusively biased, Carlton. So
I won't mention the person, but they are someone who's commented on the side here who yesterday told me that Pendlebury was the best footballer of this era they've ever seen. So I won't shout them out and throw them under the bus, but
do that because I'll eliminate them from
kick them out of the chat. No, look, but Karen Harrington, not only is she an incredible player, what a person as well. So there's one game last year, the prelim final, we played Freo at Princess Park. Big shout out to one of our cheer squad members, Frank, who had a bit of an episode, a health scare before the game at the ground. We had to call an ambulance, and an ambulance picked him up from Princess Park. We were there a couple of hours beforehand setting up the banner. And Karen, along with Jess Hosking, stayed and interrupting their own warm-up for a prelim final, stood by Frank's side waiting for the ambulance to take him out because their concern wasn't on the game, it was on the well-being of one of our fans. And that shows the testament of what sort of people they are as well. Many of us will just never forget that day, and we got up as well. And but Karen and Jess, especially that day, just they're magnificent people. And I can't speak highly enough about the AFLW program,
mate.
And 2 years on, I think it's 2 years on. You're saying that those two are amazing footballers. So
oh gosh, yeah.
Their growth, both of them, has been exceptional.
Yeah, Jess in the first season had a couple of she had a shoulder and her ankle done and a knee. Like, she had more bandages than Peter Dean at one stage. But
she was coming off a knee injury, an ACL. Yeah.
No, she missed the whole first season pretty much. So she's kind of was able to fly under the radar a bit, but just a toughness, it's like tackling machine. But not only toughness, it kind of does a disservice to talk about toughness when the skills are very, very good.
Did you see her intercept marking in the last couple of games? And then to run off, just to peel off, it was amazing stuff.
And the whole back six, she, Karen, Mua, Laluifi has walked into that side, and if she's not,
oh my God,
if they name an All-Australian, she's got to be in it.
She's amazing.
Yeah, they've got to name her. And Gab Pound's been solid as a rock. She was All-Australian last year, but it's a great set of. It shows the depth of Carlton's list suddenly, where someone like Jade Van Dyke, who played every game last year and was very, very solid, gets injured in round one, and we're able to cover her for the most part. Charlotte Wilson, I hand up, start of the year, I said Charlotte Wilson to be our most improved, and again should pretty much be all Australian. I reckon we've got 3 of the back 6 in our all Australian if they do make one.
Mate, really loving having you on the show tonight. It's fantastic to get a bit of an insight into yourself and the goings on at the Cheer Squad. It's Cheer Squad are a big part of the club, and when they're up and about, and when the club's up and about, it's a great spot to see you guys enjoying yourselves. Do you get much interaction with the players at all? Do they have much to do with you? Do you sort of have much to do with any or many of them?
Yeah, so we sponsor a couple of players. So part of the fundraising we said before, we also make sure that we're intentional about giving back to the club. So we sponsor Tom DeConning. We also sponsor Nicholas Stevens in the AFLW program. And just this year, thanks to really good fundraising efforts last year, we were able to sponsor another player. So we picked up a young, youthful player of the future named Cade Simpson. So we picked up him. And I mean, if an opportunity, it's a silver membership, but if any opportunity to get on board Cade Simpson comes about, we're on it. But yeah, we've sponsored players for a long time, and we've been really blessed in that those relationships and having a supporter group get behind. With Tom, we got him when he was debuted, but before him, we sponsored Dennis Armfield since his debut. Before him, we sponsored Eddie Betts since debut. So getting behind someone when they're kind of in their, infancy of their career kind of is a way to encourage the youngsters. And long-lasting friendships have been formed as a result. Dennis Armfield, all Carlton fans know the bloke he is, but Cheer Squad, he did a lot for our group. He's turned up to fundraisers where we've had Cheer Squad members battling cancer and they were needing to shave their head and things like that. So a handful of Cheer Squad members, myself and a few others, decided to shave our heads and try and raise money and do a fundraiser at Princes Park. And Dennis and Levi Casbolt and a few others came down and gave their time and finances for Cheer Squad members. So we're really blessed in that proximity to players is quite high. And as I said before, we do get the privileges of being in the rooms from time to time. And it's something that, for me personally, I remember being that kid. I remember being, as I said before, Scott Camporelli taking me into the rooms to meet all the players. So I remember being 6 years old, wanting to meet my heroes. So it's now at a stage where if we do get that privilege and that opportunity, trying to be really intentional to find young people around us who we can try and take in with us and trying to, get them to meet Mark Murphy and Patrick Cripps and Charlie Curnows of the world, and seeing kids' eyes light up is at the end of the day what it's all about.
That's amazing. That's really good.
Yeah,
absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head. It's, do you believe this season should go ahead?
Ooh. Controversial call. I feel like he's everyone's whipping boy. I'm on the Paddy Dow train.
No. Do you believe the season should go ahead?
Oh, do I? Sorry, I missaid that.
Yeah.
Do I believe it should?
They really are.
Yeah.
They are performers. It is entertainment industry.
Sure.
Do you believe they could be going ahead? No crowds.
It's really funny when you pose it like that. I actually haven't stopped to think, should it go ahead? I've been in the camp of, I have been saying to a lot of people, I would be surprised if we got any footy. All of the talk from the AFL lately has been when the season resumes. So we heard Andrew Russell today was online and he did a Q&A press conference and said when the season progresses and continues, so-and-so, whether it was Charlie Curnow or Eddie Betts or whoever's been injured, should be right to play. So it does seem that they're going to play football. In terms of the should they, it totally depends on what the season structure looks like. Yes, it's going to be compromised, but seasons have been compromised in the past. Let's not forget the two of Essendon's premierships were won in years with no grand final. So there's already 2 asterisks against their names, so they haven't got 16. We've got 16, they don't. I think it should. Yep. If we're able to get some footy in, no matter what it looks like, I think we should be up for footy. As long as it's safe to do so, obviously. But if we are to believe that they're going to try and extend it past September. I don't see any reason why we can't fit a 17-game season in starting from June or whenever it's going to be.
We could just do footy every week for the next 2 years, but that might be very expensive for the cheer squad. Although I guess you'd probably love it.
The way that my other love in life, the Melbourne Victory, are going at the moment, I'd happily forego A-League and just throw them to the curb and let's continue with the AFL. No, I don't see why not. Look, it's about being adaptive. If we can play games on a Thursday night, we can play games on a Monday night. We can make up missed time in other ways if we need to. Yes, it might be an extra burden on the players. It might be harder logistically, but a juggernaut machine like the AFL surely has the capacity to find a way. And as we said, we don't know what it's going to look like, whether it's 17 games, whether everyone plays each other once. It's to be seen. But I think they'll find a way to get. I think it's financially worth too much to the AFL not to play.
So what are you guys? What are you guys doing?
That they've got is they own Marvel Stadium.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing without no footy? Cheer squad must be going. I know everyone's going insane, but the cheer squad in particular. You're getting probably your pom-poms and doing Zoom meetings and stuff, making little banners and coming up with little chants. What the hell's going on with you guys?
That's funny you mentioned that. There's a couple of group chats we've got going, like messenger threads and all that sort of stuff for like the Cheer Squad committee and stuff. I'm going to be really honest, and don't hate me, everyone who's listening to this is in those groups. I've muted them all because everyone has gone stir crazy and is just talking about everything and anything to try and pass the time. And but yeah, I've got them on mute because it's just too much at the moment.
Social media is a horrible place.
Oh, it's crazy. And look, I think that's great. Why,
excuse me,
channels like,
social media, what are you talking about?
That's why it's great for channels like this one, and Cheer Squad page has been deliberate in it too, but several other fan accounts have kind of got a directive at the moment to pump out really positive messaging, keeping everyone entertained. It's almost like a gift of service, but it's also our way of dealing with it by, kind of keeping everyone else entertained and everyone else involved. People have been putting up past games online. It's been publicised. There's a YouTube account with every single Carlton win dating back to like 1986 uploaded to YouTube, and I've just lived on that. But
it's not illegal, but
it's not legal. Well, there's a cricket equivalency. I'm not going to name the account because I don't want the AFL to, because we know the AFL watches this. We don't want the AFL to find out and shut it down. But there's a cricket equivalency that's just last week, Cricket Australia shut it down for copyright reasons, and I thought that's the poorest form I've ever heard. But yeah, look, what are we doing? I mean, we're all going a bit lazy.
Money getting to know your partner.
By the way, these clubs actually. Sorry, I'm going back to football. If it were to happen on social media, which I hope it doesn't, but if that were to happen, well, the whole reason that clubs exist is because of television rights.
Sure.
Television rights are actually based upon exclusivity.
Mm.
And so when it starts going to other channels, that exclusivity is lost. And so there's not as much money around when it comes to the next television rights. The next television rights are going to be significantly less what is in the current contract of social media.
And at the same time, we're going to try and generate that interest and that excitement around the product so that if and when, we do resume whatever normality, the new normal, whatever that looks like, it's almost like our directive to get that anticipation building and keep bubbling away so that by the time they do bounce the ball and we're actually allowed to go back to the footy and enjoy Eddie Betts kicking 13 against whoever it is we play next, whether it's the Bulldogs or whoever. But we want the place.
Didn't you read my mock report, mate? It was Kazzy that kicked 10.
I'm up for it. I love Levi Casbolt. What a man. No, look, if we keep that interest and that anticipation building now, when it does resume, we've got to hope that people are in a financial position to be able to turn up and enjoy it again. But if we are, I mean, just imagine how loud it's going to be when we do, when we are able to resume it again.
There is a conspiracy going around that was actually a Carlton supporter in Wuhan province that started sneezing and coughing and eating some exotic animals just to get Charlie Curnow on the park and Harry Mackay back on the park for the start of the season. Any inside mail on that?
I cannot confirm nor deny my links to the Chinese Communist Party. No comment. Yeah.
For someone who works in politics, mate, that might come back to haunt you.
I'm a card carrying socialist, so anyway, there's no link there.
Oh, it's lucky our audience is about, it consists of Johnny and I's mum, so we're right.
So I'm just thinking. 17-game season, crowds dramatically drop off, and the interest dramatically drops off in the last 4 or 5 games of the season. Do you think that it is possible to reclaim that money and that interest when it does go back on?
Not to the same extent. They're gonna cop a loss. It's just a matter of how substantial that is. I think it's almost like, can we mitigate disaster right now and just cop a hit? And
here's the $600 million loan that just got.
Yeah.
It'll filter through everywhere. At the end of the day, it'll come back to the everyday person and everyone that'll be paying for something, whether it's higher tax, higher levy, higher fee, higher ticket price. This whole thing in footy will just impact right down the chain. Everyone will be paying more for stuff to come back up again.
And that's where there'll be interesting PR exercise from individual clubs if they are having to ask for more money for memberships, etc. Last year, when we've potentially gotten less this year for our money. It's going to be a really interesting exercise PR-wise. But hopefully people can understand the context around it. It's going to be hard. A lot of people, for cheer squads. Cheer squads are notorious for being, a lot of people might be from low socioeconomic backgrounds, and we always get called the nuffies. Well, we've got, people on disability pensions and stuff in our cheer squads, and they only have enough for a membership and to travel to and from the games each week. That's what they got, and that's their life. So when people talk about refunds on memberships and stuff, well, I think of those people because they're less able to cop a financial hit. For a lot of us, we're blessed to be able to.
Where do you draw the line, though?
Exactly, and that's the thing. It's a really difficult landscape to navigate right now, and on all our parts.
Mate, you mentioned a couple of players already. You've obviously been a lifetime Blues supporter at 30. Maybe quickly run through a few of your favourite players, maybe from on field, and maybe some of the guys you may have known on a sort of personal level.
Stephen Kernahan. He's still the greatest to me. The greatest Blue I've seen. He's quite considerably. Growing up, Craig Bradley, Steve Silvani, Justin Madden, Brett Ratton, these were the Kudafidis. I mean, these were amazing players. In more recent years, I've been a devout Mark Murphy fan for many years. I think he's far too often maligned with Carlton fans. I think people see him as the figurehead of our crap times because he was the captain during a lot of it. I see him as the one bloke who was consistently turning up and having a dip every week during those times. It's easy to forget that 2011 season where he was, I think he won the Coaches Association award for the MVP and was All-Australian, and I quite seriously think he should have been Brownlow favourite. I remember at the time thinking he was a chance for the Brownlow that year. I worry about players like him and Simo, what their legacies are going to be, not only with Carlton fans but the wider public, because they've had very, very good careers just in the wrong era. If Mark Murphy played during the 90s, we'd be remembering probably as a two-time or one or two-time premiership player and a 250-gamer and a legend of the club. But I still feel there's people out there, Carlton fans as well, who just don't quite grasp just how good he's been for Carlton. and loyalty matters to me. Those sort of players, they've had, God knows, they've had opportunity to go elsewhere. Murphy got sounded out by Hawthorn, and GWS came knocking for a few of these guys. And the one club loyalty meant a lot to them. So Mark Murphy is probably one of my favourite of the current crop. And then over the last 12 months, I've fallen in love with one Sam Walsh and Matty Prespakis, because they are far too good at footy, those two. We have the two best players under the age of 19 in the country, both on our list.
Agreed.
I don't think many would disagree with you in regards to that. Sam Walsh could really be anything, and Matty Prespakis probably could get a game in our boys team.
She'd be getting in the top 5 BNF as well. Let me tell you. Imagine being like, she's still 18. She's still 18, playing in the women's comp. And
it just goes to show you, she's obviously been surrounded by footy, in her youth, and her parents and have got her involved, and her family's got her involved in footy, so she's had that development. I think now of the girls right now that are seeing the girls play right now, and the development that they'll start doing right now. Me and my daughter, right now get in and have a kick in the backyard. And I'd never imagined that. I never imagined, and always wanted a boy, and saying, hey, can't wait for my son to play footy. And now, stupid, ignorant me back then was thinking, well, this is fantastic. My daughter can do this if she wants to do it as well.
Yeah. Our cheer squad president, Jovan, his daughter, Oriana, was born basically a week after the inaugural grand final of the first season. And I'll never forget him saying to me, he said, well, he's going to raise a daughter and she won't know anything other than girls can play footy.
Correct.
And it was really impactful for him going to the couple of the games in those first season and just saying she won't know anything other than, yeah, you can. No one's going to tell you can't. I fell in love with AFLW in the first season and a bit because of it was like I liken it to punk rock. It was kind of this underground movement, this kind of counterculture, thumbing its nose at society. Oh, you're telling us we're no good. You're telling us we can't do it. That's kind of what I loved about it. But then someone like Prespakis comes along and you see the level of skill and you think, oh, game's gone up a couple of pegs here. We talk about game changers is like a quote, that Carlton pump out for the team. Prespakis has changed the game, and she's 19 years old and copping a physical tag every week, and they're whacking into her. And at 19 years old, not only is her body holding up, but she's laughing at these other girls, like just still getting 25 touches a week, and they play 15-minute quarters. She's ridiculous talent.
I think Grace Egan, like I said last week, if we didn't have Prespakis, she would be the greatest thing ever,
I remember the first they had like an open training before the season started this year, and I remember speaking to Katie Loynes, who's one of you mentioned players who off field have gotten to know them, and Katie's an amazing young lady. Speaking to her, and I said about that Lucy McAvoy, and I said to her, she's got a bit of talent. Watching her around the training track, she was just very clean and had a lot of strength for her core and everything. And I said, she's very impressive. And Katie said to me, she said, well, wait till you see Grace Egan, who wasn't out there training. She might have had a bit of a niggle or something. And sure enough, well, here's Katie tooting her own horn because she's the recruiter who picked her up. But, if you were Richmond right now, you'd be kicking yourself because they had the option to match her, as every single AFLW commentator has told us every single time Carlton plays a game. You only hear it about 4 times per match. But she, but what a player, like just clean and and tough as well. Yeah.
Mate, like I said, it's been fantastic to have you so far. Really appreciate it, and hopefully we can get you on again at some stage as well, because we haven't really delved deep into some stories that you've got to share, no doubt. So we'll definitely get you on again at some other stage. I just want to talk to you about, obviously, again, you've been involved and right at the coalface of the footy club, and you've seen lots of change going on. The direction right now we're in, the list we've got right now. Are you buoyant? Where we are? Have you got your rose-coloured glasses on like we have, or is it is it really good times ahead, do you think?
Publicly, I always have rose-colored glasses on. For those who are a bit closer to me, there are a handful of people who might inbox me and say, I'm a bit concerned about this player, or I'm a bit concerned about this, and then they get the real story behind closed doors. But no, I actually am. For the first time in 20 years or so, I think we're at a stage. Pardon me, I got the hiccups. First time in about 20 years where I can say that we've got a president, a CEO, a list manager, football department, coach, playing group. They're kind of one mind for the first time I can actually say that in 20 years. I'm shattered. We all are what happened to Brendan Bolton last year.
And Silvani.
Absolutely we are. But I look at it now and I think there is a season for everything. And Brendan, when he took over, although he was not what Carlton has historically gone for in a coach, we still kind of put the Messiah complex on Brendan and thought, oh, well, he'll take us to the promised land. He'll get us from the absolute lowest we can be and take us there. And in hindsight, that's naive. Certain coaches are good at building a list. Certain coaches then take you there. I think that Teague not only showed in the second half of last year his adaptability. How many games were we 5-6 goals down? Even Richmond last week or 2 weeks ago. We're able to give up a lead, but he's got a plan B. He's able to adapt mid-game, so that shows a good coach. But the way that the boys are speaking about him shows that he's also a good man manager as well. So there's two different things when it comes to coaching, whether you're a leader. You can be a leader off-field or you can be a good leader on game day is really important. And I think he's showing massive strength in both. Our playing list, there's undeniable talent there. It's just a matter of there are a lot of ifs, maybes, and buts, though. There's a lot of players who are still hoping, if we are to take the next step, Richmond aren't the best team because they've got Dusty Martin. They're the best team because their 17th and 18th best players turn up every single week and do their job and no questions asked. If we're going to get better, we need the bottom 4 or bottom 6 players to step up. And they're the guys like a Paddy Dow, a Dave Cunningham, a Lockie Plowman, and a lot of players, he's the whipping boy for a lot of people. But they're the sort of names that if they can take that next step and actually develop into what we think a lot of them can, but there's still a few question marks over a few of these guys. Can Dave Cunningham get his body right? Can Tom Williamson get his body right? It looks for the first time, touch wood, that he's getting there. But yeah, there's a few questions still, but there's undeniable talent. You look at Jacob Wiedering the other week, played on how many goals did Lynch kick last year? 70-something goals. And Wiedering, he was a chew toy for Wiedering. He just played with him. Literally was like a chew toy with him. He just smashed him, ragdoll. And that's one of the best full forwards in the competition right now. Just got manhandled by a 22-year-old, 21-year-old defender. Harry Mackay at times, Charlie Curnow, we know that they've got the talent. It's just can we keep them on the park consistently at the same time? I'm very buoyant about where we're headed, but it's almost as much as a lot of people are saying it's a blessing that there's time off because it gives time for a lot of these guys to get their body right. I think there's a handful of guys who just need to play footy. I look at someone like a Tom Williamson and I think he's just about there, and now there's a gap in the season, and I just hope that it isn't, the moz hasn't been put on him and he's able to get right, because I look at him and I think there's 150 gamer in there. He's got the ability. We've done not a lot wrong draft-wise over the last couple of years, but those trade-in plays, I think Will Setterfield could be anything. His disposal needs a bit of work, but he's made of the right stuff. And we saw Jack Martin the other day. I mean, in terms of introducing yourself to a new fan base, or a fan base, you wouldn't be used to a fan base.
When he came up for ability for Carlton Live, when we went out to do a sponsorship and we saw Jack was there, I know he fell over and says, "Is this a typo?" No one. Jack, and yeah, really fortunate to have a chat to him at the sponsors night the other night.
How many times would you guys have been asked, or on your channel, and I know on our channels, but how many times do you see it written, "Oh, is he worth the money?"
Yeah.
You play like that. You play like he did on the weekend. You put that together for a whole season. He's worth double what we're paying him.
I did slip him a 50 just to contribute as well. So.
Brown paper bag under the table. The old Carlton's back.
Not the old days. That's it. No, for sure. Mate, we might have to sign off shortly. Probably I've got one more, Johnny, and if you've got any other questions, if anyone's going to get other quick questions for Nic, he's got to get back to his life. But just for anyone that wants to get involved in the cheer squad, is there a sort of a process? Do you apply? Are you looking for people, or is it a bit of a? I have heard some things in the past. I'll be honest, it's a little bit of a closed shop, but yeah. How do you get involved?
Yeah, it's interesting. There is so we are a type of membership, so people who do want to get involved. I actually love where the cheer squad sits. I love the view from behind the goals. I'm a sort of a person that when I watch footy, I like to analyse it. So sitting behind the goals, you get to see how teams set up structure-wise and defensively. So that's one of the draw cards for me. But it is a particular membership that you can buy from the club. We have heard in the past that there is a waiting list to get into the cheer squad. Having said that, there's a handful of people, and I'm going to I'll point fingers and stuff like that. There are people who buy a cheer squad membership because it's one of the ways you're guaranteed finals tickets or grand final tickets, etc. And they buy a membership and they never turn up. So there's in the previous years we've heard damn right, and we've heard people say, "Oh, the cheer squad's half empty," or "There's no noise," or whatever. Well, because people aren't turning up. So I don't understand. And the club have been over the last couple of years changing that. So there is minimum requirements. It is an expectation of you if you're sitting in the cheer squad. If you want the privilege to be there and you want the privilege of access to finals tickets and stuff, and God willing that we're going to be close to it, that there's an expectation of you that you turn up and that you do your bit and that you do take part and get involved. So yes, there is the ability. It's great for young families. So majority of the people I mentioned before who do turn up to banner nights and stuff like that, they're young kids. So if you ever hear certain individuals on social media saying, "Oh, the cheer squad spelled a banner wrong," or whatever, well, it was made by 6-year-olds. They're the ones turning up and doing it. So it's a great environment for young families. Majority of the core group, if I will, of people on our committee and the people who are volunteering their time have teenagers or younger children. And it's a great atmosphere. So for anyone who does want to get involved, I'd be calling the club and asking to get involved. And also we're quite interactive via social media channels with our interstate members and all members throughout the AFLW. The rules are a bit more flexible about how many people we're allowed to take on the ground. So we're quite intentional about, especially young girls, but young boys as well, trying to get them on the ground to help raise the banners. So everyone who is out there who is interested in coming out on the ground, I'll get you boys out on the ground one day this year, and we'll raise the banners together. There's nothing like being at the MCG. It's packed, especially, and being on the pitch at the MCG. It's very special times.
Awesome.
No, that'd be fantastic. And I'm just up the road I'm just up the road from Hillside too, so I'd love to pop down one night and
absolutely.
And work on the banner and meet a few of you guys as well, and even do a bit of a Carlton Live feature while you're making it. I won't give too many secrets away, but we'll do a Carlton Live night directly down when you're putting the banner together. So it'll be great insight for Carlton fans as well to see that happen.
Too nice.
Wouldn't I love to see it myself to be there, but even that'd be just a boyhood dream.
And that's the sort of stuff that when you do it every week, it's quite easy to take it for granted, but you got to keep remembering that, not only I've mentioned before, trying to get young kids to meet their heroes, but for adults, we go interstate, and if there's full-grown men who get like giddy schoolgirls at the opportunity to come on the ground and do the banner, because that's, absolutely.
John went pants at the best of time. Thinking about the MCG, you'd have to wear an adult diaper to contain yourself.
I have been a part of the WWE, a part of them, but worked with them very, very closely. I've seen most of their superstars, met the best of the best. So I have been sort of, I don't sort of have that giddy schoolgirl stuff anymore because they're involved with that. But what you're offering there, yes.
It's funny. I mentioned before the proximity to certain players. We almost take it for granted, but I can be in close proximity with, the likes of Cripps and Kerno and these sort of guys. And once you get to know a handful of the players, you get less starstruck. Of all of the players on our current list, Taylor Harris is a legitimate superstar, and my voice breaks when I talk to her.
Hello.
There's a certain star power.
First girlfriend.
There's a star. Some people enter a room and there is just something different about them, and they have a presence, and they are stars. And she's one of them. She enters a room, and I turn to water. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, full disclosure. I've got 7.
I did that with Mark McClure. It was absolutely hopeless.
Full disclosure, I'm only allowed within 700 metres of Levi. Just a little,
a little bit different.
Yeah, but I'm sure that'll be finished by the time the first game comes around, or the next game comes around. That the court would have finished that little issue.
Levi, the baby making machine.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And I think Levi's he's taking over Carlton Instagram tomorrow, so that should be fun.
Here's your chance.
Me and Deb, speaking of giddy schoolgirls, me and Deb O'Connell will be glued to Instagram tomorrow, and luckily I'm at home working, not at work. Otherwise, yeah, a bit embarrassing for what I might be doing under the desk.
Oh, too good.
Okay, comfortable. Let's move on.
Yeah, how's that for a segue?
No, that's a good way to finish, I think. I don't think there's been two other questions we've had. I apologise if I've missed everyone's questions going through tonight, but I think you've sort of answered a few that people have put up there. Certainly, it'd be great to get you on again at some stage very, very soon and have another chat with you. It's been fantastic. But yeah, apologise to anyone that didn't get through with their questions. We didn't talk too much individual specific footy stuff, what's going on, and a few people wanted to talk about Charlie, and I think there's some commentary about his injury sort of being back on track now, and obviously Nick Newman and stuff getting having an operation this week. So tonight, we didn't want to really talk too much specific about footy. It's more about a personal stuff and speaking here from yourself from a personal level. What the Cheer Squad's all about. Obviously, what you've been doing, and some stuff there as well. The fact that your partner through the Cheer Squad's fantastic. I'll probably be looking for a new partner very soon in this social distancing we're doing, and my wife's Richmond. So if your girlfriend's got any Carlton friends, then just keep one eye open for me.
A true story, and I don't know if my partner's still listening or not, but here's a true story. I was about 18 years old shopping on Chapel Street, and they had a Virgin Megastore like Sanity or JB Hi-Fi there.
Yes.
And the girl in the Jam Factory, and there was a girl working behind the thing who could have been Sofia Vergara for all we like. She was stunning. It probably still is stunning. She was something special. And like Johnny, I'm a mad wrestling fan, and I was buying wrestling DVDs. And
man.
I'm a big fan. And not only did this girl kind of say, "Oh yeah, John Cena, yay, he's hot," or The Rock, ha ha ha, she knew her stuff. She was talking about how she watched Ric Flair fight Ricky Steamboat in 1988, and I was like, holy hell, I'm in love. Sure enough, I went outside, and my mate was on the phone outside, and I walked out, and he said, oh, what's with you? I said, oh, I think I just met my future wife. And he said, well, go back in and talk to her. I said, oh, no, you can't send me back in. He goes, no, go back in. So anyway, true story, I walked back in, and I walked up, and she had a bit of a smile on her face seeing me come back in. And I said, oh, can I just ask you a question? I said, do you like the footy? And she said, yeah, I do. She goes, love it. I said, oh, who do you go for? She said, oh, I'm an Essendon fan. So, thanks, and walked out. And to God, true story. Ain't nobody got time for that.
I love it, mate.
Hair lost.
Yeah, no, I love it. But in the next breath, she could have converted for you, and then you might have missed out. But
well, I always said I'd rather someone that doesn't follow footy than someone who goes for Essendon or Collingwood or Geelong or Awkward. Michelle is still listening. There you go. She is there. Love you.
Hello.
Shout out to Michelle. I did promise Michelle a shout out, so there's a shout out for Michelle. Just after the story about unrequited love. How's that? I'm a romantic.
Also looking for a new partner, just in case anyone else.
Gosh.
Oh, that's good. No, I really love it. Mate, like I said, really appreciate it. We wanted to try and get you on for a little while now, and it's been a perfect opportunity to do that. And it's from my perspective, and I'm sure from the audience perspective, it's been fantastic. The people who've joined us live tonight, really appreciate you joining us as well. And I'm sure that there's obviously a lot of people that will check back in during the week to watch the show as well, who will get a lot out of it as well.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity, boys. Any chance to talk Carlton and just talk about anything?
We probably could go all night.
You start talking about Levi again, and I will go all night. I love that man. Seemingly not quite as much as you, but I do love him.
Do you two need a moment? I'm happy to.
We'll take this on a private Skype channel later on, mate.
No, next Thursday. Let's do it next Thursday.
So I was going to get a Carlton tattoo if Carlton beat Richmond in the first round. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So we'll see. Levi tattoo, fair here. I was going to put the name of my kids there, but nah. We'll talk about Levi.
Kids grow up. Levi lives forever.
That's for sure. The double cobra is. I've got a poster of the double cobra above my bed.
All right, this is getting a bit weird.
That is.
Thank you very much. It was probably one of my favourite shows. Have you in? Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, gents. Thank you so much.
Good night. Thanks, Nick. Thanks to everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week. Give us a shout out on Twitter, LinkedIn. Make sure you follow the Cheer Squad as well. They do some fantastic stuff. Get involved. See if you can help. Make sure you buy a raffle ticket when they come up. Support them. They are really an integral part of the footy club, and they're at the coalface week in, week out. So get behind them for sure. And thanks for watching tonight. Good night.
Go Baggers.